Hey guys, Scott here again for another beer video. Today I'm going to change things up a little bit. I'll get to the topic in a second, but I've been focusing a lot on beer styles and things that, the beer history and things that go along with that particular style, as well as analyzing a little bit and drinking in front of you that particular style. But today I'm going to change it up a bit, and moving forward, I think I'm going to be starting to filter in a few either not necessarily blind reviews of beers, but I'm going to have some beers and we're going to do some tastings right in front, and you're going to see the brand of the beer. You're going to see the style. I'll give you my opinion on it, and a lot of it's, most of it's subjective. So, by all means, I would when I do those videos, if you chime in underneath, if you're watching me on YouTube, like your feedback, you may have a completely different opinion on a beer, and I'd love to hear it. I still promise you that Belgian Dark Strong Ale, the West-Fletcherland 12, that we're going to be doing a video on also. So what we're going to do today is just discuss about, maximizing, your trips to these microbreweries or farm breweries or whatever you want to call them, nano breweries, depending on the size of them. Perusing through YouTube, and some people were asking some questions on other people's Facebook messages, so kind of gave me an idea just to try to get the most from your experience going to any of the local microbreweries. And again, none of this is written in stone. If you want to throw it out the window and just do your own thing, that's fine too. But just some of my own personal tips that I was thinking about, that you get the most from your experience there. First of all, when you arrive at these places, I would, arrive sober, okay? As much as you may have a designated driver and you want to imbibe and enjoy all the beer that's there, I would arrive sober to give yourself a little space. I mean, one of the things, I live on Eastern Long Island, and we have a wine country out here, and it's very pleasant, beautiful land. Wineries are great, the wine's good. You bring food, have a great day. The problem with them over the last, say, 10 years is they've been becoming now like people going there to drink for sport, like bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, and it really takes away from, other people's visits there. So arrive sober, maybe a little food in your stomach just to try to slow down the digestion of some of the alcohol. But when you arrive in there, first thing you want to do is maybe take in the beer board, right? There's about every brewery, microbrewery usually has a big board with the names of the beers. And I think by law, they have to have the names of the beer as well as the alcohol percentage up there. But most microbreweries, nano breweries are run by, beer geeks, okay? Guys that have been doing home brewing like myself for years, and they love the data, they love the numbers, and they know they're also catering to sometimes a clientele that likes those numbers too. So, you want to take in the beer board, and if not, most of them will have like a little menu or a little piece of paper. Take a look at it. Another thing to have when you go into these places, very simply on your phone, you've heard me use the BJCP term. It's an acronym for Beer Judging Certification Program. I may have misspoke once and said brewing, but it's the Beer Judge Certification Program. If you get it in print, it's a free thing you can download. It's like 100-something pages, and I'm not telling you to start studying for it like I've studied for years with it, but there's usually a paragraph when you download it on the phone. It propagates very quickly. You put it in the style of beer, and it'll give you a quick little blurb about the beer, like light beer, refreshing, blah, blah, blah. And that's all you may need or want to know, so you understand if there's a style of beer you're not familiar with. But again, it's right on your phone. It's very easy to do. And if you want me to link it, I can link it for you later. But BJCP app, things on the board that are easy, right? ABV, right? The alcohol by volume percentage. You see that in all your cans of beer. That's by legality. They need to have that. If you get a bottle of beer, they usually have to have that on there. Other things you may see up on the board, maybe not as common, but again, sometimes the brewers like to put these things up there, is they'll have a term called IBU, International Bitterness Units. The IBU comes from when we use a part of the hop with the glands, the lipulin glands, and we put it in the beginning of the boil. It releases alpha acids, which eventually form that bitterness to balance out the sweetness of the beer. Well, some brewers at their microbrewery like to put that up on the board. So, give you an example. If you had like a Munich Helles light beer, that's roughly, if I remember correctly, about 22 IBUs. If you get something like some IPAs, regular IPA, roughly 40 to 60 IBUs or over, and then it can go up to like 120 IBUs. So it's gauging the bitterness. And remember, like I've said in other videos, past videos, you put the beer on your tongue and throat, swallow it, and then just give it a little delayed reaction, and you'll get that bitterness. So you'll see the bitterness value there. And you'll see these numbers on that app, but it may help you navigate things a little bit better if you understand when you see IBU up there. Usually over 100, we don't even perceive it. But if you see that, a German Pilsner may have like, I think it's 30 to 45 IBUs, just to use a rough idea. Another term you may see up there is another acronym is SRM, Standard Reference Method. It's the color of the beer. And it can be anywhere from 0 to 40 plus. That's not really 0 because water would be 0 because it's perfectly clear. But a straw color would be about 2, 3 SRM. Gold would be about 5 or 6 SRM. Amber goes in 9 to 12, and then you start getting to brown around 25, 30. So again, you don't need to memorize these, but if you're also looking at that app and you see that number, that's kind of what you should be expecting when the beer comes to you, especially if you gauge beer based on that. Styles of beer, some brewers do not like to abide by the styles of beer, which is fine. This is not a legal binding document, that BJCP. It's just that as a consumer, I should maybe speak for myself. If I'm expecting a Kolsch beer, which is a very light colored beer, I don't want to see something that's pushing the color of a porter or the different bitterness, or I don't, if I'm looking for an international pale lager, I'm looking for a particular color and bitterness, and there's leeway. So the brewers aren't bound by it. I wouldn't be going on Yelp and saying, hey, so-and-so didn't brew to that style, but it's good for the style. So it's kind of like, as a consumer, you know what to expect. Whether you're getting, if it says Hefeweizen, you're expecting to get that clove and banana. I did a video on that. You're not going to want something like a Gosa, which is like a sour beer, even though they could be very close to the same color and hazy. Okay, so that's why styles, I feel, are important. But if you have that app and you're going in and you see a board and there's a beer that you're not familiar with, type it in real quick and you can kind of get an idea if that's a style. With that said, I usually recommend trying a flight of beer. Most of like a flight of wine, they'll have like little, I won't say sample cups. One local place doesn't do this with the flight, but many of them do. Anywhere from 3 to 6 ounces. Actually, I don't think they push 6 ounces too much of beer. And what I would do is, like wine, that you drink white wine to red wine and then your sweet wine, I would start with the lighter beer, go to the darker beer. And a good server will probably tell you how to do that. If you don't do a flight and you don't know immediately, like on the board, I want to try this or try that, ask the server. If the brewer's there, ask the brewer. Okay, if you tell them certain styles that you like IPAs, you like, you're a Bud Light drinker and you're looking to get into craft beer, they should be able to give you some recommendations based on the hops, the bitterness. If you asked me, I could probably give you a few choices based on the board. So I'm sure any competent server at the microbrewery could do that. So that's just another recommendation that I would give you. The other thing is, when you are doing any tastings, start with those lighter beers, like I said. And if you are going to be trying something really heavy, like an imperial stout or a barley wine, you may or may not know each one of these styles, but wait for that to the end. Kind of like going from a Sauvignon Blanc to a Cabernet Sauvignon wine. You want to advance it. So you want to start with like kind of lighter beers to darker beers and maybe lighter alcoholic beers to stronger alcoholic beers. Again, just a recommendation. You're not ruining your day if you do it the other way. Consider trying something, just a recommendation, outside your comfort zone. Okay, go to, when you're doing the flight, maybe there's 3 or 4 styles you're going to like it, but try something outside the box. Okay, these people, we don't have them locally here unless I'm not familiar. Some of the stores that you can go and draw beer at the store into and sit down and drink it or grab a crowler or something like that. Try something different just to see if you can expand outside of your normal everyday beer if you are a beer drinker. Some microbreweries too, again, just to make your experience a little bit better. The whole thing on Guinness and draft and nitrogenated beers is they may offer it in nitrogen or regular carbon dioxide. If it's an IPA and stuff, I would say maybe go with the nitrogen. IPA, go with the carbon dioxide. Sorry, if it was like a stout or any other the darker style, I would maybe consider the nitrogenated beer. If you want to know more about that, watch my Guinness video and about Irish Stout. But remember, nitrogen doesn't do very well for those hoppy beers, so you want more carbon dioxide with that, because it'll help the hop aroma emanate a little bit more from the beer than nitrogen would, which gives you that dense thick. But again, if you say, Scott, to hell with you, I just want that creamy, that's fine, because you can get other beers nitrogenated. I just think you kind of wasting the experience of having a nicely highly hopped beer if you want to get the aromatics from it. Keep in mind, if you're at I don't want to say a good brewery, because these places, I've never run a brewery myself. I can only imagine if you had glassware for every style of beer, you would have an exorbitant amount of glass, and it would probably be an expense you don't want to do. Keep in mind, when you're at these breweries, they are probably going to, ideally, they would serve you the beer based upon what you are drinking, or the glass based on what you're drinking, excuse me. So if you were drinking a very high alcoholic imperial stout, expect it to be served in maybe a snifter or a small tulip glass, not a big 16-ounce shaker pint or even 16-ounce nonic pint or tulip pint, big like that, because that's usually responsible serving. So any responsible server will serve your higher alcoholic and some of your barley wines, imperial stouts in smaller glasses. You want them to give you at least about an inch ahead too when they're pouring it. I remember back in the day when I was getting into craft beer, people would say, no head. They would tell the bartender, I don't want any head. You want the head in the beer. Remember, we want those aromatics from the hops, especially in hoppy beers. And expect that. And don't be that person, sending the beer back based on that. That would be crazy. So again, you'd like to see a bar have different glassware, but don't expect it all the time. I'd like to see they would at least have, maybe if they're using shaker pints, have a tulip pint for some of those beers, even if they're not having a snifter and things like that. But as a consumer, which video is really about, is don't expect 16 ounces of a 12% imperial stout served to you, or even a big shaker pint. You can do that at home, okay? But I wouldn't expect that out of the place. The other thing is when you're watching them pour, just while I'm thinking about it, is when you are tasting the beer, we're not going to sit there. As much as I study beer, I do analysis for my own thing and have fun and write notes and everything. You're not going to sit there at the bar and be that tool, criticizing the beer. But you do want to look at the beer, look at the color, smell the beer, taste the beer. Is there bitterness? Do you feel the alcoholic warmth? Are you tasting? What are you tasting in the beer that's very, very similar to everyday foods like fruit, guava, grapefruit? Like, if you really want to enjoy and taste it, are you tasting a roast, toffee flavors, caramel, toast, white bread? That's something you can do even at home. I mean, not going to sit there at the bar and hold up the place for that, but consider that while you're trying to get a little bit more out of the beer. If they have two IPAs, compare the IPAs to each other. Which one do you enjoy more? Is there more like a West Coast IPA versus a American IPA? And I did a video on that too. Also keep in mind, and I preach this a lot, is just because you don't like the style of beer doesn't mean it's a bad brewery or they don't know how to make beer or they didn't brew the beer to the right way. Like, you're looking for, an imperial IPA or a stout and you're expecting something, and you're like, oh, I don't really like imperials. You're thinking to yourself, I didn't really like the beer, but it wasn't that the imperial stout was brewed poorly or the IPA was brewed poorly, just that maybe you didn't like that style, or maybe you didn't like a Kolsch, or you didn't like American Blonde Ale. It doesn't necessarily mean that. So let's not like start bashing the breweries based upon that. That may just be your taste buds. It may actually be brewed very well. Things you should trust though, okay? I'm not gonna go through Cicerone, we study and off flavors through the brewing process. You know, if something, 2 off flavors that I think, or maybe 2 or 3 off flavors that I think you guys can pick up that I would send back to the bar is something like skunkiness. I did a video on that about being light struck. 3-MBT, 3-methylbutylthiol is the compound that gives you skunkiness. You know, I don't think you're gonna get that too often. You're probably gonna skunk it yourself taking it outside, okay? But the other 2 is a sour taste, like vinegar, okay? There are organisms like Acetobacter, lactobacillus that gives the acidity that are contaminated in the beer, and it'll taste like vinegar, all right? Definitely if you taste that, as long as you're not getting ordered a sour beer, of course, there's actual sour styles, you would send it back. Or something that is just like butter, like they have diacetyl. Pediococcus is the other one that produces diacetyl and a compound that produces like a vinegar flavor. Those are very easy to pick up. Ask the bartender, send it back. Those I would say send back. If it's just like a flavor you just didn't like, maybe you don't like the roast of, like I said, of a stout, or you don't like a particular hop varietal, I'm sure the bar would take it back. I wouldn't send it back for that reason, okay? But there could be a draft line infection they have at the bar. Okay, again, I wouldn't raise your hand and go, I think you have a draft line infection. I saw your bartender sticking the tap into the beer as they were pouring it. I wouldn't be like that, okay? You know, privately in my mind, I think may think of things like that or whatever, but like I would never say anything like that. But it does happen, and you know, I'll be honest with you, in my opinion, a lot of your microbreweries and your nano breweries, farm breweries, you're not going to get a lot of draft line infections. I think most of them do the draft lines themselves, clean them out. I think your dive bar, your college bar, town bar, you know, they're supposed to be doing a cleaning, caustic cleaning every 2 weeks, and a beer stone cleaning every 3 weeks, more of an acid cleaning through the whole system. And draft line infections are common. So I wouldn't be shy if it's vinegar or real butter. But if you're just like, maybe I just don't like that hop, or I would just drink it or give it to your friend or your partner or whoever and let them drink it. So again, this video today is not for you to be a, you know what, at your brewery. Okay, this is not but it's just something to give you a little more, be a little more informed about your experience there, to make it a little bit better, get the most out of it, and what to expect a lot of times and what's reasonable. Okay, you know, asking for no head, or you know, wanting 20 ounces of barley wine that's at 12%, it is not really responsible consumption as well as serving. So you're not going to be getting that in most places like that. Consider after you do a tasting and you're having a good time, you're enjoying it, is take a growler or a crowler home. If you know what I'm talking about, a growler looks more like a jug. You could actually buy them on Amazon, real fancy ones that even have CO2 that keep the beer fresh. It looks like a big jug. They'll clean it out. Maybe they'll put the beer on CO2 to preserve it. Or a crowler, which is like an oversized can, which I think most cans are about 32 ounces. If you own a brewery watching this and you know, your brewery does different sizes, please let me know. I mean, of course, different than the regular cans that you'll get. But the crowler, which I like, about roughly 32 ounces. They seal them up there, crack them open. And with that, you know, I would not let them sit in your refrigerator for like indefinite period of time. If you're not drinking them that day, you don't have to take them home and just consume both. You'd probably be dancing off the ceiling here, bouncing off the ceiling. But I would say, you know, growlers, if it's not really airtight, is, you know, you can get probably, I would say it's ideal to drink them within about 3 days, because there is some oxygen going to get in there. So as soon as they draw it off of the tapping system, it's getting aerated. So it is going to start spoiling. I've gone up to a week, even though, you know, if someone told me they waited 10 days, you probably, if it was sealed right, it would probably be fine, but I really wouldn't, you know, run the risk of it, you know, spoiling. The crowler probably a little bit longer, especially if they're doing CO2 in the can, and then putting the beer in there will last a little bit longer. So growlers versus crowlers. You know, that's pretty much it. You know, I would say, I always encourage, as much as I'm going to be doing all these styles, some commercial styles, and you know, support your local micro nano brewery. We're lucky, fortunate, the last 10 years, I think we've had 3 or 4 pop up. I've one, literally, if I didn't have railroad tracks, I could walk there, in half a mile, not even. Try to support them. It can become costly. Your microbrewery place, sometimes they like to take chances. It's expensive, buying grains and things like that. And, maybe certain things sell more than others. And that's why sometimes when Big Beer buys them out, I won't do that in this video now, why that's not such a bad thing sometimes, is that you still have the great brewery, but they can take risks with certain styles of beer. But support them. So that's pretty much it, guys. Hopefully there's a few, some of you are probably nodding your head like this was kind of obvious. I do this anyway. But I know some people that have chimed in my other videos, they're not either beer drinkers, they only know a little bit about beer, and they found some of my videos informative. I figured I'd just do a general, hey, you go into the microbrewery place. So to try to get the most out of it and what to expect. If you have any comments, questions, or you have any ideas for future videos, please, chime in. Like I said, moving forward, I'm going to do videos like this still, and I'm going to be doing some more style videos because I really enjoy those too. But I am going to start just beers I buy. It doesn't have to be local microbreweries, just commercial beers that, besides talking about the style, I may just pick out beers and do some tastings on camera. And what I go through and about analyzing the beer privately, and sometimes I chime in on Untapped and things like that, that you may get a little bit out of, because you may look at beer a little bit differently. And that's the whole focus of why I do this. I enjoy doing it, and if I can give a little, knowledge to people to, maximize their experience enjoying beer in their living room or kitchen, or they're at the microbrewery, that's great. All right, guys, till next time, have a great day. I'm doing this right around Thanksgiving, so have a happy Thanksgiving. And I'll talk to you soon. You'll see me soon. Take care. Bye-bye.